Imagine holding a tooth the size of your entire palm, just one piece of enamel and dentin, yet it carries the crushing weight and raw power of a prehistoric giant. This is the Otodus Megalodon, the most immense shark to have ever patrolled our waters. To grasp the scale, picture two school buses lined up end to end. That is the length of this beast, more than 3 times that of a modern great white shark. Some calculations place the largest individuals at a staggering 16 meters from nose to tail. How could a predator so dominant, so perfectly evolved for the ocean, vanish completely? Today, we move past the cinema monsters to dismantle the mystery of this biological machine. We drift back into the Miocene epoch, where Otodus Megalodon reigned as the undisputed sovereign of the seas. This was no localized predator. A 2022 analysis categorizes it as a transoceanic superpredator. It did not merely haunt the coastal shallows. It was an efficient, high-speed cruiser capable of crossing entire oceans with ease. We hold this truth because megalodon teeth have been discovered miles from any coastline, providing forensic proof of long-distance migrations, even at a measured pace. To understand its ecological niche, we examine the order Lamniformes, a sprawling evolutionary family tree that includes the sleek makos, the strange goblin sharks, and the basking shark. Within this lineage, the family Otodontidae, where our giant resided, is where the true titans lived. It is nearly impossible to visualize a global ocean where this creature was the standard, not an anomaly. We are about to look into the metabolic furnace that kept this colossal beast running. Here lies the central frustration for paleontologists. We possess no complete skeleton of the megalodon. Because these sharks built their frames from soft cartilage rather than dense bone, their remains are rarely preserved for millions of years. Unlike the sturdy fossils of whales or terrestrial mammals, a shark's cartilage typically dissolves long before it can turn to stone. What we study in museum exhibits are almost exclusively teeth, which were mineralized enough to survive the eons. We occasionally recover a stray vertebra, but these backbones are mere fragments of a much larger life. Piecing together a megalodon is like attempting to reconstruct a massive, complex puzzle, while 99% of the pieces are missing. Since we rely on scraps, we are forced to build the beast from the evidence. In 2020, researchers utilized 2D modeling to reconstruct the megalodon's likely silhouette, comparing it against the physical measurements of mako, salmon, and porbeagle sharks. This provided a blueprint of a predator with a massive, robust head and a curved snout, built to anchor terrifying jaw muscles. It displayed a tall, narrow dorsal fin and an upwardly directed tail, the classic silhouette of a deep-sea heavyweight. Then the science took a sharp turn. In 2022, a 3D model was constructed using a series of 141 vertebrae from a single individual found in Belgium. By combining these with a tooth series and a scaled-up skull, the estimate surged to 15.9 meters and a mass of 61,560 kilograms. Yet, the image of a stocky, heavy monster faces fierce debate. A 2024 study challenged this, arguing the megalodon was more elongate and slender, resembling a giant lemon shark. The data shifted again. A 2025 analysis synthesized measurements from 165 species of sharks, both living and extinct. By using median lamniform proportions for the head and tail, the model yielded a total length of 16.4 meters, or 53.8 feet. Crucially, this study determined that a lemon shark body plan was hydrodynamically superior for a shark of this massive scale. A stocky shape would have created excessive drag, burning far too much energy. Consequently, they recalculated the Belgian individual's mass at roughly 30 tons, half of the previous estimate. How do you fuel a biological engine of this size? The metabolic demands were astronomical. A shark of this magnitude required roughly 100,000 kilocalories daily. To visualize this, that amount of energy is nearly 20 times the intake of an adult great white. If you find yourself questioning how such a predator satisfied this hunger, the math becomes grim. That daily requirement could be sated by consuming 21 kilograms of whale blubber or 32 kilograms of shark muscle every single day. It was a constant race against starvation. Despite this intensity, the shark's speed remains debated. While one model suggested a cruising speed of 5 kilometers per hour, evidence from Japan tells a different story. Analysis of microscopic placoid scales indicates that Megalodon was a relatively slow cruiser, lacking the rapid-fire speed of the modern great white. These tiny fossils suggest this titan was not a fast pursuit predator, but a steady, inexorable traveler. Beneath the surface of its size, a biological secret hummed in the Megalodon's blood. Using chemical inferences from their living relatives, scientists have determined that megalodons possessed regional endothermy, a specialized ability to keep their internal core temperature higher than the surrounding water. Think about the energy cost involved in that physiological trick. It is a gamble that only pays off if the ocean provides a constant, overflowing buffet. Philip Stearns from the University of California notes that this shark had to keep eating to fuel that internal heat. This requirement created a metabolic trap. The animal needed to consume vast amounts of prey simply to exist. However, the payoff was absolute dominance. This heat allowed them to swim through frigid currents, dive deeper into the darkness, and access food sources that cold-blooded sharks could never reach. It was an evolutionary marvel, yet it left a gaping, hungry void in their energy budget. To map out the food web that defined the Pliocene, we must turn to the chemistry of the teeth. By examining zinc isotopes, researchers can effectively trace exactly what these giants were consuming. The data reveals a consistent reality. The Megalodon was an apex predator that specialized in hunting whales and other massive marine mammals. For millions of years, these sharks occupied the very top trophic level of the marine ecosystem. They did not merely hunt, they possessed the ocean, utilizing their sheer mass to overwhelm the other predators of the era. It is a forensic masterpiece. We can actually see the ocean's chemical balance shift as the competition for resources intensified, leaving the giants vulnerable. In early 2019, research published in the journal PeerJ offered a granular look at the Megalodon's final days in the eastern North Pacific. This was not the result of a single catastrophic moment, but rather a perfect storm of environmental decay. The ocean was transforming. Temperatures fluctuated, currents shifted, and the very habitats that had sustained a giant predator began to dissolve. We are looking at a massive scale of ecological collapse. The shifting climate altered the distribution of prey, and the Megalodon's extreme biological specialization, the very traits that once made it king, became the mechanisms of its demise. Does immense size invariably demand a prohibitively high metabolic rate? A 2024 study disrupted this logic. It turns out that some sluggish sharks, such as the basking shark and small-toothed sand tiger, maintain high metabolic rates despite their sedentary appearance. This upends the assumption that only high-energy, rapid predators burn calories at such an alarming pace. It suggests we must reconsider how we calculate the Megalodon's energy needs. If even the slowest sharks in today's oceans can demand such high caloric intake, then the Megalodon was likely a relentless, high-cost biological machine, whether it swam like a bullet or a cruiser. We're left with the portrait of an apex predator undone by its own success. The Megalodon was built to be the ultimate consumer, a 16-meter engine of survival that required 100,000 calories every single day just to maintain its internal temperature and mass. It mastered the ancient oceans by specializing in a world of giants. But when the climate cooled and the whales shifted their migration patterns, that specialization became its final trap. It could not shrink its needs fast enough to outlast the changing tides. Today, as we watch our modern oceans warm and the ecosystems of our own apex predators fluctuate, The Megalodon stands as a reminder of how quickly the top of the food chain can shift. The Titan did not die from a lack of power. It died because the world it helped shape eventually outgrew its ability to survive within it. Condensed into a final summary of the paradox of specialization: reason, ensure impact and adherence to length rules. Word count, 1,850 to 1,890. Duration estimate, 13 minutes to 13.5 minutes.